Hey all, back with the leap. Super excited about today's episode. Popped on a little early here. Gonna wait for some folks to trickle in and get our guest on stage, Alexus, who I'm super excited about. So thanks to everybody who is joining us. We're just gonna get started in a few minutes here. So appreciate your patience while we get everything all set up and whatnot. Super excited about our guest today. Alexus is awesome, and I'm really excited to dig into her business and to understand a little bit more about her learning. So thanks to those of you who are joining us and just tuning in. Just give us a minute here or so to get things going, and we'll get it started. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks for joining us, y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We're just gonna get started in a few seconds here, so appreciate your patience. Just want to get our guest up on stage. I'm just gonna get started here in a few seconds.
Hey, that works so quick.
There we go. Hey, how's it going? I know, honestly, I usually screw this up and I don't know, something crazy happens with my internet or Instagram or whatever it is for the day, but we did it this time. So I'm super excited to chat. Thanks so much. So I'm going to kick off just with a quick little intro, and then we will kick into your story, which I'm super excited to talk through. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. I know folks are still trickling in. Welcome to this week's episode of Leap. Super stoked about our guest this week. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachel Rennick. I am the co-founder and CEO of Wecos, which is a platform that helps freelancers team up and form what we're calling virtual studios. It makes it really easy to price projects and split payments. Today's guest is awesome, straight out of Atlanta, Georgia. Roberts is
I was like, it paused you for a little bit.
Did we pause? Did you get me? Okay.
You're a little choppy, but it's okay.
Okay. Actually, we'll see if it clears up.
Okay.
A little bit. If not, I can always throw my Wi-Fi off. But Alexus is a multidisciplinary artist from South Florida, who operates a full-service creative studio, as I mentioned, out of Atlanta, Georgia, called TrellVision Studio. They create bold, eclectic visuals, product photography, graphic design. Check out the website because really, really cool work going on there. And they're doing it for a variety of product-based businesses who are really looking to elevate their brand and then connect, with their audience with clarity and confidence. For the past 8 years, which is I've been running my business for 5 years, almost 6. I'm it's been a decade. I don't know, every day feels like a year. But 8 years strong, Alexus dedicated her work, helped so many small businesses, gain revenue, traction, and just stay really culturally relevant, which is super exciting. Alexus, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Would love to just start by hearing a little bit more from you directly about your journey to start your business and how that's evolved over time.
So what I include in that 8 years is a lot of side hustling. That grind of just trying to make ends meet and also doing it on the side of a 9 to 5, I think so. I've been a photographer and graphic design really early, starting in my teenage years, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. So I did a lot of $20 logos and $100 here, flyers and t-shirts. I think we've all been down that path. But just doing things to just make money, make ends meet. And sometimes it just paid for gas. Sometimes it paid for groceries, So I started off there, and I don't think I knew that I could do it full time because I didn't know how to do it full time. So around in that 8-year time span, I just started to develop my craft, try to figure out what really I wanted to hone in on. I just said yes to everything, just to try to figure out what exactly I wanted to do, until the pandemic. Pandemic hit, and me and the job I had didn't see eye to eye on how COVID works. So I was like, I'm out of here. So once I did that, I did end up getting another job, and I got fired from that job. And I said, you know what? I think the universe is trying to tell me something. I think I need to go full time and just give this my all. So I did, and I started to experiment a little bit more with product photography and other things in design, not just logos and branding, but I also started to go into product design. I started to go into presentation design, and that's kind of what I'm actually a little bit going more into. So I started to see a little bit more of what my capabilities were and what I could actually do and what I could be hired for. And that's what started me on my journey, was basically exploring more of what I could do and what I can make a buck from. So, yeah.
Definitely. That's awesome. I always say, like, I started my
Yeah.
business while I still had a full-time job, and I was like working off of a
Yeah.
hard drive, low key, like, don't tell anyone. um so
We all been there.
I definitely get that. And I feel like, yeah, for real. And I feel like um
Yeah.
COVID had this impact on a lot of people who
Yeah.
either left their jobs by choice or not. So it was a really challenging, interesting 2 years for a lot of folks. I am curious. I noticed on your website you've got like several different sort of packages and pricing, and I really appreciate that level of transparency, both as somebody who hires freelancers and somebody who's been a freelancer. Um, and we hear this a ton from our users and our freelancers, which is not just necessarily struggling with pricing, but
Mm-hmm.
actually like packaging it,
Mm-hmm.
articulating it, like the sales process. Um, can you talk to us a little bit about how you thought about pricing your offerings, the strategy sort of behind that, and then how you think about communicating the rationale or the value to prospective clients while you're,
Yeah.
navigating that
So
process?
I did take a course on how to run a product photography business, right? Shout out to Darden Creative. She has a really
Cool.
great program called Photo CEO. And one of the things she touched on was like finances and how does that work? And she said, think of it as a very like to the point of how does your expenses work? Like, what does it take to run your business? Like, what do you need to survive? You know, and how does those needs come up? How do those needs actually, um, how do they get met? Like, as far as like financially, So I did a really good, and just an analyzing of like all my expenses, looking at what it costs to really run my studio, whether that be like subscriptions, whether that be like photography equipment, gear, looking at how much value I bring also to the table in my skills and my expertise, like how much of this have I been doing that I feel, valued enough to, give somebody else value. Um, I think the way that I explain it to clients is like, how much is it going to cost you by not not having good visuals? How
Mm,
much is it going to cost you to not have really
yeah.
compelling visuals, whether that be design or photography? How much is that going to cost you? Because someone you're competing with a lot of people when it comes to all these digital platforms, right? Like with Instagram, we're all competing, so like if your visuals are not standing out versus the other, or your design or however is not standing out, how much is that costing you every day? So the value comes from there. That's I mean,
Hmm.
if I
Yeah.
want to rationalize it, that's probably the best way that I could say that, is that, and also the fact that I gotta make sure that I'm good and that I can't live off of $500 no more. Like, like I can't, that doesn't spread. I mean, inflation is a
Amen.
thing, okay? Like prices are going up everywhere. Have we seen the gas prices? Okay. Um, have we peeped those things? Okay.
I'm in
Like,
Nashville
have
and
we
I
peeped
have.
those things? And the thing is, like,
Yeah.
you have to keep your prices up with the times going on, as far as like, what is it costing you? And if it's costing you more and more, you gotta up that price. And also, if I'm putting the skills to what I'm doing every day to learn more, to research more, and all kinds of things, that's putting more value into me and the experience that I give my clients. The experience that I give is none like no other. Like what I do for my clients is not what somebody else does, not more or less, just that. So that's kind of, I guess that's how I would rationalize
Yeah.
it.
No, I love that. I think that like what I hear you saying is kind of like this one-two
Yeah.
punch between like what
Mm-hmm.
do you lose out on by not doing this? So like sort of this like fear of loss or missing out or whatever that is, plus the value prop on top of it, and the positioning to say like I feel this way about brand too a lot, where people don't
Yeah.
want to invest in like brand, or they think of it as a very sort of
Yeah.
like shallow, like, oh, it's just a logo. And it's like similar to what you just said with photography, especially if you're a product business, like
Yeah,
that's your whole business,
right.
like that's your storefront is your website. And so I think like that rationalization of,
It's so
I
simple.
mean, it's funny. It's almost like even if they couldn't articulate what they lose,
Right.
yeah, like
It's an
you're ready to
investment.
do it for them, right? You're ready to be like,
It's
well,
not.
I'll tell
And
you what you'll
it's another
lose.
thing. I don't look at it
Yeah,
as like this is what you have to purchase. This is what you have to invest. Like you're putting this money into your business, to
yeah,
get something out of it. So whatever you're putting into it is what you're gonna get out, right? So if you only put $200 in, you know what I'm saying? Like, what does that come with? Does that person know what they're doing? Is that, and not to say that it's you can't find a value in $200. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have to look at what things price, and if that person that you're, having do whatever you need them to do, are they doing the job that you need them to do? Do they understand it enough? And then what are you losing? Are you afraid to lose out on that? And if you can't, then what position are you in your business to even afford this right now? So there you go.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, because too, like people just
Yeah,
generally undervalue creative, even though it's drives
everything.
everything in business now. Like
Yes,
the
and
whole
digital
world is
at that,
visual.
and digital, and
And so
digital.
like yeah, yeah. And so like when you ignore that medium, it just feel or undervalue it, it feels so short-sighted. And it's in my opinion, one of the best places to invest as a company, as a brand. In terms of like talking to your clients, because I know that sometimes, well, first of all, I imagine you might be having this issue now that your business is really growing around even
Mhm,
like trying to vet or
mhm.
qualify potential projects or clients. And
Oh,
we
listen,
love to
favorite
say
word.
no. I love to say no.
Favorite
um,
word.
yeah, yeah, it's for real. So speaking of no, like how do you think about navigating the initial call with your client? Like what questions do you kind of ask? How are you sort of thinking about vetting them versus understanding sort of what their
So
challenges
the
are and
the
getting them
first thing I
comfortable?
did was stop calling my calls a discovery call. There's this
Mm,
Instagram account. I don't want to say account because they're people, but it's a woman. She's like a systems person, coach, and she said she stopped calling her initial call the discovery call because what are they discovering? Like what exactly are like some people will
mm.
just get on a call to pick my brain, and that's usually for free.
We know. Oh yeah, I
And
know
I'm
that
like,
move.
sometimes, I don't mind depending on this person if I really wanted to work with them and they're just trying to figure things out. Like it depends. Like I've had a client like that where she's picked my brain and like we literally just had a really great conversation and like months later she chose me to do her work, so it works out sometimes in that favor. However, how I vet now is like, is your product like done? Is it ready to be shipped out? Are you ready to go? Is there a budget, that you have? And do you have a marketing budget? You know what that is, and then sometimes I'm working with small businesses, so a lot of them don't know a lot of the verbiage or what goes into like creating these things. So I do have to like almost kind of teach a little bit. And if it's becoming to the point where I'm teaching too much, it might be where they're not ready for me, like maybe they're just not ready. I see that as like a red flag, or not, I don't want to say a red flag, but just more of like an initial like, okay, maybe they're not ready, that type of thing. Also, I would say I would ask questions around like how strong is their brand? If have they sold to anybody? Like is this, like are you like already selling and you just need to redo things, or is it within your means to put time into this? Like is this what you need right now? Like is this actually figuring out if they really need this right now? Or is there something else that they need? Because the whole point is solving a problem. So like my images that I give to you and that I produce for you, problem. And if I'm not solving a problem, and it's that you're gonna blame me. That's what I feel like, and I'm gonna blame myself too because I'm like I shouldn't have taken on this
Yeah.
project knowing that's not what you needed. Maybe you needed an identity. Maybe you needed a new logo or something. Maybe you needed just need to sell something. Maybe you needed to get on Instagram a little bit more, find a different platform that works for you instead of saying like, oh, these visuals are not working that you already have. So it's just really like really vetting is like going into what they actually need at the moment and if I'm solving a problem for them right then and there. And sometimes they just want pretty visuals and that's cool too. As long as you got the money, I'm here. So, that works too. If you just want pretty visuals,
That's kind of, yeah.
okay.
That's the straightforward part.
Let's do it. You got the budget, let's do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Yeah, for real. And content too in that regard, like it's so hard to keep up with. So sometimes the
Yeah.
project is like I need a giant image bank
Yeah,
that
for sure.
I can keep using
For
and,
sure.
refreshing and reusing. And that's a different like sort of approach for sure than like, somebody who is, to your point, maybe
Right.
super early on in their business or their brand. So it sounds like, well, what I hear you saying is like kind of an assessment of
Yes.
the level of maturity of the business or where
Right,
they're sort of
exactly.
at in their journey. Yeah, and then in terms of like saying no, can you give us some language? Like, is it like not a
No,
good fit at
no.
this time kind of, is that
It's
what it's
giving very
giving
much
or?
NO. No, I'm just kidding. Um, no, I think the way that I approach it is that I have a network of creators that I hang around with or just keep in contact with. If I'm not the person for them, somebody else may be. So I'm going to refer you to someone else that may be more
Yeah.
affordable, or not to say they're any less value, just maybe more affordable. Maybe they're a better choice. Maybe I'm just not the problem that you're solving right now. I think better off, even if it's like a budget thing, like maybe we don't work right now, but maybe later on when you're ready, just let me know and we can revisit this. Like not everybody is ready to work with you, but they want to work with you, which is it's admirable. Like I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that, but like I need money. So like I can't I can't do this. I can't do this for free, boo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like what I do try to do is either I direct them to where they can be. So like if there's something that can help them, I'm gonna direct you there because the whole point of you coming to me is so that you can solve a problem and I'm gonna help you solve that problem. That's really what I love to do is help people. So in that helping, wanting to help someone, I'm gonna figure out what I can help for you and then I'm gonna move you along. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe it's just not me. And maybe I'm just not I'm not the creative that you need, or maybe I'm just not the creative that you want. You think you did, but maybe I'm not. And even to the people that are like red flag, red flag, red flag, and they're just like annoying, I'm just like, maybe I don't know if this will work out. I think maybe we should try another time, or maybe try somebody different, but I don't think at this moment it's going to be a good fit. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think like whenever I'm talking to even any of my advisors, like sometimes I like just like literally need the language.
Yeah.
I'm like,
How
no,
would you
literally
say
like
this?
how would you literally say this? And they're like,
Nah.
yeah, and they're like, oh, I would probably say something like XYZ, and then
Like
I'm like frantically
NaH. Nah.
like, okay. um yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be a no
It's
for me.
giving it's gonna be a no for me. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like saying no is like one of those really intense, like kind of growth inflection points that
Mm,
feels a little weird for a business owner, but is actually
yeah.
a really great thing to be experiencing because that's how
Honestly,
you
I
know
didn't
that
know
you're
that.
growing for
That was
sure.
something I had to
Um,
learn. I had to learn how to say no. Like it was to the
mhm.
point where I was taking on so many things that I was like, this doesn't even align to what I want to do or who I want to help or anything. And I'm literally time just goes by and you're like, why did I take on this? And learning, it's a skill to say no. It don't come easy. You literally have to know when to say no.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to get
Yes,
that.
yes,
It takes like
it
thicker
does.
skin too, I think, like just to
Bad or
not
guilty.
feel,
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
like,
know, guilty
look how
about
much
it. And it's
time
like,
I saved. Yes,
these are the
that's
boundaries we
that's
got
the
to create.
word.
Yeah, yeah. And I find too that like the ones that are giving red flags throughout that process, like
Mm,
I've always regretted not trusting my gut on that. Even if I was like in
yeah,
a desperate situation or
yeah.
really needed to close the business or whatever,
It's
for the
never been
money,
worth
like
it.
oh my God, it's just
Yeah, it's
those are the
never been
mistakes
worth it. But
that
you
I
learn
make.
so
Yeah, it's
much
not.
from it,
It's
right?
really not.
Even though you
It's
may have
brutal.
said yes to it, you still learn from it. That's what I've coming to realize. Like, oh, I should have
Yeah.
never did this. Shoulda, coulda, woulda is not gonna solve anything. So take from what you can, what you learn from it. Maybe try to figure out a different process now. Like now you can do something different than you did before. just by taking on that yes. So what did you learn from it? You know, so everything's a journey. Everything's a journey. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree. This actually segues in great into my next question, because I think, I've talked to a lot of folks who are also at this sort of growth inflection point. They're getting lots of requests, and I imagine that your clients that you're working with are probably coming back a lot, looking for more stuff. How do you handle the growth there? And it sounds like referrals is a big place that you play in terms of, delegating, or rather referring that work out if you're at bandwidth. But yeah, like how do you handle requests that are either sort of outside of what you typically focus on, or maybe you're just fully at bandwidth for an existing client, you just cannot take any more work
the
on?
route that I go. Like, as far as like, if you're asking like how do I manage like requests outside of what I do, most times like I said, I have a network of people that I can tap into to be like, hey, this person is probably the best for this right now. Like, I still have people who hit me up for maternity shoots and and like birthday shoots, and I'm like, I don't do those no more, and I'll do it from maybe like friends and family, maybe like if I feel like it, but I don't necessarily do them anymore. So I will refer someone else if I can't handle it, to be honest. So I honestly just got a good hold on like managing how much clients I want to take like each month. And I was like, okay, this is what I want. I know how it feels to take at least 5, 6, whatever in one month sometimes. Now I want to know like what it'll take to, one, manage my business where I'm not feeling like stressed or overworked, also what my anxiety can handle, because I just started therapy. So I'm like, there's a lot of things that I can't handle personally that I have to make sure that I keep myself balanced and leveled so that I can actually do the job. Like, just because you get it doesn't mean you can handle, getting it. Not everybody's the same in handling that. Like, I think not comparing yourself to like, oh, this person is grinding and hustling and I got to do that too. If you can't take it, you're at your capacity, So whether that means like passing along to someone else so they can make a buck, you know what I'm saying? Or that means like, hey, you can get on my books the next 2 months, if there's somebody coming back, like, hey, I have another spot open in the next 2 months. What about that? Does that still work for you? If not, then hey, I'm so sorry. Like, maybe we can get together a different time, but I'm going to set that capacity for myself, because no one's going to get me out of my element or get me out of like that, out of like a good state to actually do the work, So yeah, you gotta like respect that for yourself.
Yeah, and that's such a huge piece, because like if you can't effectively deliver the work and do it to the quality that you want, then that has like such a ripple effect around like everything, from like your reputation to other clients to like other freelancers that you might work with. Like, it just has so many repercussions. Stretch yourself thin like that. One of my favorite quotes is like, motion does not equal progress. So there are a lot of people out here who are hustling,
but it's not necessarily progressing.
They're moving.
Yeah, right,
I don't know if they're necessarily making any progress. Yeah. So, because like you can exhaust yourself all day with an endless list of things that have to be done. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're making any progress. And so I do think that those boundaries and those constraints are super helpful and important for people to understand if they're just moving because they feel like they need to just be on this treadmill, or if they're actually, making progress.
I was like that. I had to get rid of that mindset, because, yeah.
I got tired.
Sleep. I need a nap.
I'm like, I am too tired. I can't do this. I can't do that. Yeah, like there is no shortage of work to be done. That is for sure. And it's like, if you don't create those boundaries, you just go crazy. In terms of one thing I was really interested to ask you about, because I see this more and more these days, which is entrepreneurs that have sort of like mixed revenue streams or different kind of models under one brand. I noticed that you're selling both services and products in your own shop, which I thought is super cool. And I have this dream one day of like doing an integration with Shopify. So you could do like a Shopify studio crossover, and like, because like a lot of people are doing both to a certain extent. Anyway, that's tangent for another day. But yeah, I was really curious, like how do you manage the different aspects of your business? Like what does your typical sort of day-to-day look like? Like how much time do you spend on each side? And how do you think about balancing out both like from a time management perspective and I guess from a revenue standpoint,
Ooh,
what,
that's a
isn't worth
question.
it?
Okay, I'm gonna try to answer in sections. Okay, so as far as like the t-shirt goes, which I'm wearing right now, it's the vision for me. Um, I wanted to create passive income for myself as a creative. Like sometimes you get those months where it is a little slow, where you may be getting rejected sometimes. That's another thing I had to, even though I'm saying no, there's other people saying no to me as well. So like I had to know it, had to go through that, know what it felt like, go through all of that. But it inspired me to figure out what are other ways that I can make money for myself, or also inspire others. How, I want to continue to inspire others. And I think a way to do that was to, put out my mantras that help me to keep going. Like I do have a vision, I have where I want to be, and I know where I want to go. I just got to stick to the plan, or stick to the vision. And sometimes that vision will go back and forth, whatever. But that was the reason of me starting the t-shirt shop, was like for me to continue to keep myself inspired to do something, to hold myself accountable for something, and keep responsible of it. And it does get a little bit, like, okay, I got to create a content piece for this, I got to promote it or whatever. But I also realize it is passive. Like, it's something that I want to like, like if I have time, I'll go ahead and promote it or whatever. So I try not to do too much because I'm not a t-shirt shop, right? Like that's not what I'm known for. It's just more of like a branded thing. So I encourage all creatives to brand themselves because
Mm-hmm.
literally your brand is what people buy into. When they see you on these digital platforms, things like that, that's what they buy into. And sometimes I have fans and then sometimes I have clients. So, catering to both is okay. As far as like managing my business, I do you mean by like platforms that I use or just in general, like managing it, like, oh,
Yeah. Well, I guess I was asking about more from the
oh,
lens of like
okay.
prioritization in your day to day.
Like what's priority? How do I manage?
And like, yeah, like how you sort of
Okay.
manage the different
Like,
moving parts. Yeah, and like, do the days look
oh,
the same? The
uh-uh.
weeks look the same? Like, or they change all the time? Like, how's your
Yes.
sort of, yeah,
So
like,
every day looks
I'm with you on
different.
that.
And I say that because I get bored quick. So if something isn't like exciting or flashing, I got like I undiagnosed ADHD, so I will I will get bored really, really.
I've diagnosed ADHD, so I'm definitely with
I
you on that.
I will get bored quick, so every day has to look like a surprise, but I will have some sort of order. So the one thing that I do make sure of is that I have a to-do list that I need to get done and set my priorities as far as like what needs to get done first, right? And if I have time to work on it each day, I can get it done faster, right? Versus like before when I was literally like, okay, I got 3 days to the deadline, working on 24 hours before, like not giving myself enough time to really
Yeah.
think through things. So the way as far as when I manage my business day to day is basically just breaking things in increments. Like, okay, you have this due in 2 weeks. How do we get that done in 2 weeks? Let's take five, maybe like 10 to 30 minutes a day to work on this and figure out how I can like, get to the finish line with each task that I, put. So I was so proud of myself. Actually, Q1, what I did is I have a board right here in my office where I keep what I want to complete for a quarter, right? So like I'll write down each goal that I want, and they're like small goals sometimes. Sometimes it's sell $1,000 in merch, or and sometimes it's not small, but sometimes the small goal is like sometimes
I
the
was
small
like,
goal is
that
like
sounds hard.
create another t-shirt, like another lettering t-shirt, like do some lettering and create another idea for a t-shirt. That's a goal. And that goal could lead me to that $1,000 because maybe that's something that people want. So I will break down each goal and do it in like almost like sub goals so that I can like be proud of myself, for hitting those small goals and not look at just like, oh, I didn't complete this big goal, and So managing the day to day just looks like creating like those small goals for myself that's going to reach that bigger goal. And sometimes that looks like giving each of those goals like 10 to 20 minutes a day, 10 to 30 minutes a day, to just work on that. And also that looks like me preparing myself for things like researching or getting myself more know about my craft, like putting some time into that. Sometimes my days look like that. Like today, I'm actually designing a course for someone, um, and which is it's a product, right?
Cool.
That's why I said variety of products. So I'm designing a course, and it is my first one. I've designed presentations before, but I've never designed a course. So I'm like, okay, this is new for me. I need to educate myself, and I still have 2 weeks to design it. Okay, I'm gonna give myself at least 10 to 20 minutes a day to like go over little, things that I want to accomplish for the day, like whether that means watch a YouTube video, plan out the transcript, design at least 3 slides, so that how many slides do I want it to be? Does it need to be 3 slides? Okay, I'm gonna do 3 slides a day, like that's sort of how I manage my day to day. And then also including my meetings or appointments that I need to do, getting things done ahead of time. It's hard, but I do try. I really do try. So that's why I say every day, kind of like, I'm like, okay, what do I want to do today? I want to get this done. I want to get this time, that, blah, 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 So that's why I say every day has to kind of be like what do I feel like doing today? And then look at all the deadlines that I need. So that's sort of how my day to day goes. And yeah, just, yeah. So I hope
super helpful.
Yeah, I guess that answers the question.
Yeah. It does, yeah. No, it's super helpful because, first of all, I think it's really impressive in general that you're able to break that like behavioral loop, because I certainly have a hard time with it when there's like this big giant thing and you're like, oh, and then you wait till the end and then you're cranking it all out. And I think you made a really good point in there too about whether or not like how much you know about the subject or about the initiative that you're doing impacts that, because like there's certain things that are very predictable for me that I know, like, all right, I can crank that out and I don't have to worry about it. But if it's brand new and you don't know what you don't know yet, then like getting to that last minute deadline can be very stressful. And I've certainly made that mistake. So I think that that's really helpful, and I for other folks to hear too, because I certainly am in the camp of like I have ADHD, and I'm one of those people that's like, oh, I have an appointment in 6 hours from now. Guess I can't possibly get it done until that meeting happens in 6 hours. It's just like, oh, my day's not wide open.
Sorry, I got an appointment in 6 hours.
It's like, no, like we can't live like that.
No.
Rach, like we can't really live like that. So it's a hard habit. It's a hard one to break, but I had a moment too when I was going through the submissions for the contest that we just ran, where I was like, I had to read like 500 of them, and I was like, all right, I swear to God, I'm not going to leave this to the last day. Like, I will read 10 or 20 a day.
It does.
It definitely
and I think
helps.
My partner,
so I think
he's in here, his name is Hank. He actually is the one that kind of helped me frame that, like how to actually look at goals in a different way, because I always did that. And I think that was just that overwhelming thing. Like, even vision boards are overwhelming. They're just overwhelming. There's so many big things that you have to accomplish. You're like, oh, no way I'm going to do this in a year. And then, you start to doubt it because it's so overwhelming. And then I was like, well, I have to work with who I am. I have anxiety. I know, like, I literally can't do certain things if it looks too big or is due too soon or whatever. Or like if things like I will freak out. So what he literally taught me like how to actually look at goals. And also going to therapy too has helped, like looking at goals differently, and that to be proud of yourself, like throughout the entire journey. Like, be proud that you made a t-shirt design today. You know what I'm saying? Like, you came up with a phrase that you want to put on a t-shirt. Oh, okay. I'm really happy that I did that today. I'm gonna cross that out. Like celebrate those small wins, celebrate the small goals. That way, when you get to that bigger goal, it's like, oh, I really did it. Like, you feel so much better. So yeah, like shout out to him because he definitely helped me with that.
Yeah, it's so important though, because like breaking down a big audacious kind of like vision down into like these actionable items is so much of what makes it feel like overwhelming. Is that like, okay, I'm at point A, I know I want to get
like where do I go? How do I start? You gotta start small.
In between. Like, and there's dependencies and there's things that you gotta do first versus later. So mapping that out is definitely super important. And yeah, like knowing
Woo.
yourself emotionally is like a
You.
lifelong journey. So the more I've learned in that way, the better
listen,
I've been in
it's
business.
crazy that you say that, but it's true.
Because
The more you know, like the more self-aware you are, the more that you know about yourself, the better you can do in your business. Because then you can know how to manage it the way that you know how to manage it, not anybody else. Like everybody has their own sense of how
yeah,
business goes or how it's run. Like everybody has their own way, and you have to just kind of respect it, and also the fact that respect yours, like the way that you do business, it's not any more or less than anybody else, so do what works for you.
yeah, I love that. One other quick tip for folks that are tuning in, I created at our company, we create like how to work with me guides, which helps
I like
you
that.
get started on like learning about yourself if you haven't kind of gone through that exercise. And it kind of lays out like, what are my strengths, weaknesses, what are my like quirks or things you might understand that I do, for instance, what is like communication, what's my communication style, like that kind of thing. And that's really, really helped both like with the reflection process and also with just briefing other people on how to work with me. Because I'm like, look, I'm not the easiest. I have these, quirks or things, and I got a million things going on, and here's how you can be successful in working with me. And I think that really helps other people understand
awesome
better,
that
not
you
just
guys
myself.
give
So
that.
that's another
I
reason to
haven't
do
heard
that work.
anyone else give that sort of thing, and I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little user manual almost. In fact, maybe we should publish something, the template for it.
Oh, yeah.
I think it would be
sure.
really helpful for folks that are trying to understand
Yes.
themselves a bit better. So coming up on time here, and I wanted to ask you one last question, which I think is going to be awesome for everybody that's tuning in, which is a lot of folks thinking about taking the leap to freelance, or maybe they're even dabbling in it now. Any advice for those people looking to take the leap?
Like, it's not a race, it's a marathon. Like, save your money if you need to. Get to that point where you feel comfortable. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That is a big thing. Don't be afraid to take courses in what you feel like you do or do not know, to enhance yourself, to, become better at your skill that you already have. Don't be afraid to learn more. And also, if you can't do it, find somebody else that can. I am not a tax preparer. Please don't ask me to do taxes. I'm not going to do it. Find somebody that can for you, like there are resources out there, and I think you just have to take advantage of them, even if they're free or even if there's like grants out there or whatever. Like, take those opportunities, and also show up and show out. Like, be on these platforms and show out, show what you can do. Like, there's so many projects that I have yet to like put onto like Instagram and all the Behance and all kind of stuff that I'm like, why am I holding on to these projects? Somebody got to see them, someone's going to hire you for something. So you put out your best work, and don't put out work you don't want to get hired for. I'll say that for sure. But yeah, show up and show out. Like, show up like your very best. And if it's still not, even if it's not your very best, still show up. Put a sketch out there what you're trying to do, like, and don't be afraid to be yourself. Like, someone's gonna love it. And I always was very like, I'm always very awky. Sometimes I can have little quirks, there's certain things that I like that other people really not really feeling, but I'm like, this is me, and someone's gonna like who I am and want to work with me. So yeah, I think that's definitely, I would say, just be responsible and show up and show out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you also just made really good points in there about truly investing in yourself, in your learning and in your growth and in your, like, I think people are really hesitant to spend money on that or themselves or on like outsourcing accounting, for instance, et cetera. But that like you are effectively your business. And so if you don't invest in yourself and you don't take time to rest and you don't take time to, feel financially sound and secure, then you're going to be real stressed out. And you're
like,
not
how
going
do
to be
you
able to do the
expect
best
people to
work that you
invest in
can.
you if you're not investing in yourself? Right?
100%.
right?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. Could not agree more. Could not agree
yeah,
more.
you gotta
They won't
invest
take you
in
seriously until you
yourself.
take
You
yourself
gotta,
seriously, for sure.
and show up as your best self, invest in yourself, ask for help, and take that leap when you are ready. Not when anybody else is, when you are ready. So yeah, that's probably what I would say.
Amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. We will leave people with that because it needs to be like screamed from the mountains. If folks want to find you, follow along with your work and what you're up to this
So
year, where
Instagram
can
is
they do that?
TrellVision Studio. Twitter TrellVision _. Usually TrellVision literally everywhere. So you can call TrellVision. Behance, LinkedIn, it's Alexus Roberts. So yeah, you can keep up with me and what I'm doing. I actually have a series I'm doing for fun. It's a composite series called In My Head, and I'm basically uh, creating composites of things in my head inspired by my therapy sessions. So I have a lot of those coming out soon, just for fun, you know?
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. I feel that. You gotta have those
You
like little creative kind of
do.
side projects
Of
and things
course.
to, keep the brain buzzing.
This was great.
Um, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all your wisdom. I'm sure people got a ton out of
Oh,
this. I know
yes,
I did,
no
so
problem.
thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Super
you.
excited to follow along with your business, and looking forward to seeing you roll that stuff out. But thank you again for joining us this week. We really appreciate the time. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Leap, as usual, same time. Might be in a different place. Usually I'm running around.
Okay.
Today I'm in Nashville where I live, so I think I'll be in Nashville again next week.
Entrepreneur life.
But Alexus, like I said,
Yes.
I know. It was awesome to meet you. If I am in Georgia
Please,
in the near
let's
future, which I
network.
believe I
Let's
actually will
let's
be in
get
Atlanta in the
together.
next like couple
Let's get
months.
together. Let's
I'm
do
so
it.
down. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Amazing. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you next week, and have a good night, everybody.